On pole for Heat 1 would be Alex Allen in the 49 car. Skylar Dixon, the three-time heat race winner so far this year, would be on his outside in the 96 car. Spencer Fullerton drops down to the inside, and through turn 1 he gets to the inside of Alex Allen and Skylar Dixon. Spencer Fullerton takes the early lead. Coming down into turn 3, Kyle Sosnowski would shove, would shove Spencer up the track as we have some trouble back behind. Ophelia Dumian had just gotten underneath Kyle Sosnowski to make it 3 wide. We received a tap from Scott Batista. They got together, and Ophelia went for a spin. Scott Batista nearly went back on track, crashed into Mark Nutt, but luckily they all 3 drivers saved it. The caution is out, however, on lap 1. Leading the field back to the green flag, and ironically, with just 7 laps to go, these heat races just 12 laps today, very short. Would be Kyle Sosnowski in the 7 car. Spencer Fullerton trying to make a move on the outside. Neither driver has a lot of drafting help, so Spencer's actually being able to hang on the outside for now. Kyle Sosnowski clears him off turn 2, though. However, Spencer has hooked up with TJ Dent, and they are back side by side. As we approach turn 3, Richard Trolinski would drop to the inside of Kyle Sosnowski, ditching him and leaving him with no drafting help, and Richard Trolinski is going to go to the front here. Spencer Fullerton still hanging on the outside with some help from TJ Dent as Matthew Nicholson forces Richard up the track. And how about that? Spencer's going to lead that lap on the outside. The outside seems to be the only line that seems to be working together at this point as Spencer tries to cut back down, but they are 3 wide. Matthew Nicholson and Damir Bejyanov both underneath Spencer there as we are 4 wide. We've got some trouble behind these guys. Off of turn 2, Gerald Reddington, Jeffrey Fingai, and Kyle Sosnowski got together, sending them down the track into Ophelia Newman, who went back up the track into William Duncan, who was sent hard into the outside wall. William Duncan would go out of the race. All 3 of the other drivers would continue on, along with Ophelia Newman, who now has quite a bit of damage on top of the damage he received in the previous incident. Ophelia Newman and Valentin both wrecked so far. That caution needed a surprisingly long amount of cleanup, 4 laps of caution. And now with Damir Bejyanov is leading the field back to the green flag with just 1 lap to go. Can anyone challenge him? Right now Alex wasn't able to get a good start. Skylar's right behind him. Skylar ditches him. That's definitely not going to help their chances of catching Damir here. As they come down the backstretch, Damir takes kind of a defensive line, staying in between the 2 lines, giving neither driver adequate drafting help as they fan out 3 and 4 wide as per usual behind them. Into turn 3, still no one's able to challenge him. Takes a midline to avoid being drafted up by Skylar Dixon. Off of the final corner, doesn't look like anyone's going to get there in time. Damir Bejyanov is going to win heat race number 1. Second in this big pack would go to Alex Allen in the 49. Skylar Dixon got a close 3rd, just 100th behind Alex. Dakota Honecker in the 24 got 4th, and the 71 of Richard Trolinski would round up the top 5. Chris Washer in the 5 would lead the field back, would lead the field to the green flag in heat number 2. The drivers definitely aren't wasting time trying to get their way to the front. Tyler Faber, who started 3rd, dropped to the inside. Johnny Appleseed in the 00 started on his inside, and Chris Washer is being freight trained right now. He is already being pushed 4 wide. Chris Washer, though, seems to have was put in a good location there for the start, as he actually won the previous heat race for the last super speedway we went to, Daytona, back for the round of Florida. As Andreas Allen and Terrence Day pushed Tyler Faber up high, and Terrence Day is going to take the lead down into turn 1. Jacob Young, however, would make it 4 wide off of turn number 2, as we've got a big one. Right behind these guys, there goes the whole field. Sawyer Girl and Paul Swanson made some contact, getting into William Nicholson, Andreas Allen, and Terrence Day. A few cars as well spun into the grass, but luckily most of these drivers would actually would not receive too much damage in this. In fact, the only car to go out of the race in this wreck would be Alex Tanker in the 19. Jacob Young would lead the field back to the green flag. I'm surprised they even made it 2 laps with how they were racing there on the start. But hopefully we can get a few more laps in than we did in heat race number 1 here. Carl Endumian gets to the inside. He's made his way up from 3rd on the restart to take the lead already. Carl Endumian with a strong car, at least on the on starts. As Chris Washer and Johnny Fingai rather have made their way back to the front. Down into turn 3, it looks like Chris Washer in the 5 is gonna retake the lead. Typical of super speedways, this would not last long. Johnny Fingai in the 42 would get to the inside of Chris coming down the front straightaway, the quad oval portion of the track, and Michael Caine would take it in turn 2. This track, a quad oval on the front stretch, a tri-oval on the back stretch, really weirdly shaped. Off of turn 4, Johnny Fingai would get a run and get to the inside. Michael was nearly able to come back down with some help from Chris Washer, but wasn't quite able to do so. And Johnny had paid no attention to Jacob Young, who was coming up his inside. Carl Endumian now drops to the inside of Jacob. The lead seems to be changing at least like 4 times a lap. This is pretty incredible to watch. As Carl is going to take it into turn 3 here. Mike Doan from the middle line was able to mount a charge on Carl Endumian, sweeping to the inside and taking the lead. Coming into turn 1, Chris Washer, however, got his nose in there on the entrance to the turn, and Chris is back to the lead. Chris was actually able to hold the lead for about a lap and a half as the drivers raced 4 wide behind them, and therefore could not get behind him rather, and could not get a run up to challenge Chris. However, Michael Caine was able to finally do so, as we have just a lap and a half to go now. Chris Washer sweep way out to the high side there, as James O'Shea mounts a challenge on the inside. Coming down into turn 3, James O'Shea is going to take the lead along with some help from Johnny Fingai, who shoves him up the track, and Johnny's actually going to take it as we come to the white flag. White flag's out, 1 lap to go, as Carl Endumian drops to the inside as we have some 4 wide racing going on. Things getting a little sketchy with people moving around quite a bit. We've got a wreck in the back. Doesn't matter, we're racing back to the flag. Carl Endumian trying to hold on. Jacob Young wants to get his first heat race win this season, and first win overall actually for him since Pocono last year. Chris Washer now somehow all the way back to the front from being shuffled out to the outside off of the final turn. Who's it going to be? Chris Washer, Jacob Young, Carl Endumian. Mike Doan puts his bumper there. Carl Endumian's actually going to get it by just 0.03 of a second. Chris Washer in the 5 would come across the line in 2nd position. 3rd would be Mike Doan. Tried to make a last turn hero out of himself. Wasn't quite able to do so. Jacob Young comes up a bit short in 4th place, and Johnny Fingai, who was up front for a lot of the time today, for a change. He hasn't been doing too well this season. He's going to come across the line in 5th. Take a look at that crash. Mike Doan got into the back of Michael Caine, sending Andreas Allen down the track for a bit of a hit on the inside wall. He would all 3 drivers involved in this wreck would be able to come across the line, as we see Andreas Allen continuing there. Michael Caine, another disappointing run for him.